Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to DBR Bites, episode number 20. I think 26 now, or 27, 26.
I think it's 26.
Episode number 26. Yeah, something like that.
4.
As you know, these are slightly shorter episodes, not quite as long as what we usually do. Maybe at some point in here, we'll sort of shoehorn a commercial break in somewhere. But this DBR Bites is going to be about the upcoming game that Duke has against Bucknell. We got, Duke has sort of a weird holiday tournament thing that we're doing here. It's not really a tournament. It's just kind of 3 games that only count as one game on the NCAA schedule, I should say, where Duke is playing Bucknell and then LaSalle and Southern Indiana. I don't want to say it's totally non-competitive, but this should not be a really difficult contest considering Duke played Arizona and Michigan State our past couple games. I can kind of understand why we are not, biting off a big opponent here in Bucknell. Anyway, Donald, just really quick, tell me what you got on Bucknell. They're 1-3 on the season. Tell me what you got on Bucknell. Who have they played so far and how have they done?
Yeah, so they're 334th in KenPom. So we're talking about, statistically one of the worst teams in Division 1.
Yeah,
but having said that,
bottom 20, bottom 30, bottom.
Yeah. But having said that, as you mentioned, they are 1-3 on the season. That one win, unfortunately, comes at the expense of our friend Greg Paulus in Niagara. They won at Niagara over the weekend. They have lost at Delaware against Delaware at home, at Penn, and at LaSalle. So again, they've played LaSalle on the road. I think that was maybe the start of this little Blue Devil challenge that we've kind of put together. But at the same time, when you look at Bucknell, this is a team that is not very deep. They're not, they have a little bit of experience. They're not as big as Duke. And when you think about just the metrics, and I know you get into a little bit of the advanced metrics, they're just a team that offensively and defensively are not efficient. And I think that's the key here. This is a game that, forget the fact that we should win this, in hand, right? We should be very comfortable in winning this game. But to do that, we have to be efficient on the basketball while limiting the opportunities for them to be efficient on the basketball. Don't give them any chance to think that they can pull off the dream upset in Cameron. We've seen that happen time and time again with teams that have gotten close, and everyone remembers Stephen F. Austin. Don't give a team that confidence. And Bucknell is going to come in and try to shoot their way into the game. We have to make sure that our perimeter defense, which I thought was very good against Michigan State, we have to continue that over the next week or so when we play all 3 of these teams, not just Bucknell.
Well, look, you mentioned shooting. Unfortunately, they are a poor shooting team. They only hit about 30% of their threes. They hit less than half their 2-point shots. Frankly, most teams want to be, a little bit above 50% on 2-point shots.
You want to be like close to 60 on 2-point shots. Like, if you
really
want to be elite.
That'd be great. If you're in the 50s, you're doing pretty well. But Bucknell is not there on either one of those. And if you really want to know how bad they are shooting the ball, their free throw percentage, Donald. Now, look, I know small sample size. We're only 4 games in the season for them. They're only hitting 63% of their free throws so far. That's not good. Not good. This is a team that is equally bad on offense and defense. We mentioned they're one of the bottom 20, bottom 30 teams in the country. They are bottom 30, bottom 40 at both offense and defense on Ken Pomeroy. They commit a lot of turnovers. Turnovers are more than 20% of their possessions. There's nothing Not a single thing I could find that they do on offense that's among the 100 best teams in college basketball. Think about that for a minute. That there's not a single thing, there's nothing that they do particularly well on offense. They play at a fairly slow pace. This is one of those games that just from the sort of the rankings of the teams, you would think, oh, maybe Duke has a shot to get to 100 points. I think Bucknell will probably try and slow this game down a little bit so that, they may, clearly trying to keep Duke under 80-ish. But I think that may be a real challenge for them. I also looked at their defense. There's only one thing they do well on defense. Donald, are you ready for it? This is kind of amazing. I
know what it is. Go ahead.
They're like top 30, top 35 in the country at this. Truly impressive on defense at free throw defense. Their opponents only hit 59% of their free throws. I got news for you, folks. That has nothing to do with Bucknell. That is just random luck. Over the course of the season, almost everybody, basically, your opponents are going to end up hitting right around 70% of their free throws. That's what like the national average is. And that's what's probably going to happen for you. Anything else is luck. Either that or you have an incredible crowd that's able to sometimes trick people into missing free throws. Duke sometimes does that. But for Bucknell, for the best thing Bucknell to do on defense is free throw defense. I'm just like, oh man, this is a team that is really struggling. They're not a particularly good offensive or defensive rebounding team. Stop me if you heard this before. And they do a poor job of defending the 3-point line. They give up about 35% to their opponents, and they haven't played a team, as you mentioned, Donald, that's anywhere as good as Duke.
You mentioned that on offense, they're shooting very poorly from beyond the arc. I think you said 30%. They also shoot a lot of threes, and they allow teams to shoot a lot of threes. So I think that's the key here. Duke is one of those teams we've not necessarily been super great beyond the arc, but we've been decent, right? We've been at least a little bit better than we have been last year to this point. And they're going to give us opportunities to shoot threes. We're going to get a lot of open shots. If we move the ball around, we're going to get a lot of open looks. This is, again, a game where maybe this is a chance for Jared McCain to, get that confidence back, right? Like those type of guys to get off the bench. Caleb Foster can continue to improve. Flip is going to get some opportunities to shoot threes. There's not a lot of guys that are his size. They have one guy who's 7 foot that's in the main rotation for Bucknell. So, of course, he's going to be put on Kyle Filipowski, but he's not Kyle Filipowski. Kyle Filipowski will hopefully be able to do what he wants. And even if we bring in a Ryan Young or a Sean Stewart, this is a game where they should be able to be active because both of those guys are bigger and stronger and jump higher than anybody on Bucknell's team. So I think the key here is Bucknell's going to try and force us to shoot because that's the one thing that they're allowing people to do. But if we move the ball around like we did towards the end of the first half and into the second half of Michigan State, move the ball around with passes and not dribbles, we're going to get a lot of open looks. We make them. This is going to be a good game.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break just because I know that our sponsors want us to. When we come back from the break, I'm going to give you a few names to pay attention to on Bucknell, and we'll very briefly talk about sort of maybe what we want to see from Duke coming up in this contest against, frankly, an overmatched opponent. That's coming up right after the break.
Why take one vacation with the family when you could take all of them? With Royal Caribbean, you don't just go to the beach. You visit a private island and race down the tallest water slide in North America. You don't just go for a road trip. You ATV and zip line through the jungle. You don't just go somewhere new. You rappel down waterfalls and discover ancient temples. Because this isn't just any vacation. This is all the vacations. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
All right, we're back from the break, and we're going to be quick here, but I did want to mention a couple of the players on Bucknell that folks should look out for. You alluded to these guys, I think, a bit. Jack Forrest, who's a 6'5" wing for them. He's a senior. He is clearly far and away the guy that they count on for offense. He averages close to 17 points per game. Really, really impressive player from 3-point range. This is a guy who can pull up and bury a shot in your face, hitting better than 46% of his threes, which is, that's a big number. They've got a few guys in this team who can really bury 3-pointers, who can hit it higher than 40% rate. And, Jack Forrest is sort of the leader of their offense. I don't know. You may see Mark Mitchell taking him. I actually think you could see Tyrese Proctor probably matching up with him a lot. Proctor seems to be the guy in our guard rotation that we put on there on the toughest offensive player. So I think you could see that matchup. And then Donald, you alluded to the 7-foot man they have in the middle. Noah Williamson is his name. Williamson is, he's the secondary offensive guy for them after Jack Forrest. And he's a guy who, he's usually playing smaller, less athletic competition than Duke, but against that smaller, less athletic competition, he's a pretty good shot blocker. They like to get him the ball in the post, and he's not gonna go out there and take a ton of 3-pointers for you or anything like that. He'll occasionally step out and shoot it, but he's mostly operating in the post as a 7-footer. He's 244 pounds. The interesting thing for Bucknell is if Duke is playing one of our other bigs, especially we're playing Ryan Young, then Williamson probably has to guard Ryan Young. I'm not sure who Bucknell has that can really match up with Kyle Filipowski as a result. Frankly, I'm not sure, even if they've got Williamson on him, I'm not sure they have anybody who can match up with Kyle Filipowski. He's a matchup nightmare for a team like this. And then Donald, do you have any other players you want to talk about, or I was going to get to, what we want to see from Duke?
Yeah, I think the one thing, and this may be a good segue, is the fact that especially their guards, they're a lot smaller than Duke, right? Like Alvin Edmonds is their point guard. He's 6'2". Josh Basco is the guy that kind of comes off the bench. He's 6 foot. Jack Forrest, as you mentioned, 6'5". Jack Forrest is going to play the 2 and the 3 at various times. Quinn Berger is 6'2". Sometimes with Jack, when Jack Forrest moves up to the 3, Quinn Berger will come in at the 2. So they have a lot of guards that are very small. So what that means is, like you said, Jason, some of these guys are really good from 3, but they also are going to try and, maneuver around and try and open up passing lanes and get the ball down to Noah Williamson, who's the big 7-footer. I think this may be an opportunity for Duke to go small in this with the lineup format or lineup rotations, but I also think this is a chance for some of our smaller bigs to really shine. Again, a Sean Stewart, like Christian Reeves may come in and see some time in this game for Flip, but Sean Stewart, this can be a game that he can break out in because, again, he's very athletic. He can guard guys that are smaller than him. He can guard guys that are bigger than him. And he's going to be one of the bigger guys on the floor when he steps into the game. Maybe, just maybe, is this a game that if we can, play well, can we see a TJ Power enter the game? Again, another guy who's 6'9", can shoot the 3.
That was
things
the big
like
thing
that.
I want to see in this game. I'm hoping to see TJ Power because I'm hoping, what you're talking about here in terms of getting these guys, a few more minutes, having them feel good about their play, building some confidence, is getting them to the point where they can become part of the regular rotation. We saw such limited minutes from both Christian Reeves and Sean Stewart against Arizona and Michigan State. It's not about, are they going to get 7 to 10 minutes against an overmatched opponent like Bucknell or the other games that we have coming up next week. It's about, do those extra minutes that they get in these games allow them to become part of the rotation for when we're playing ACC opponents, when we're playing Baylor later on, and when we're playing Arkansas. That's to me the big thing to look at here. It's not just, are these guys getting some time, but are they building some confidence, and is John Shire able to build confidence in them?
And learning to be efficient when they're in the game, do something, contribute in many ways for the minutes that you're in the game. It doesn't matter if you're in for 2 minutes or 20 minutes. We've had guys that have been in the game for 19 minutes, have done nothing. We've had guys that have been in the game for 3 minutes and done everything, right? It's about being efficient when you're in the game and contributing in ways that may appear in the stat sheet, or again, may move that plus minus one way or the other. But it's about making those contributions. And when these guys get in the game, the Christian Reeves, TJ Power, Jalen Blakes, I think we may see a lot of him in this game because, again, I think he matches up well with his defense. If we see these guys get into the game, I think the coaching staff is waiting to see, like, hey, you may not get a lot of minutes, but if you do, make the most of them. And let's see when you're on the floor that you not necessarily earn the right to get more minutes, but we can depend on you to be efficient when you are in the game. And that means your number is going to get called a lot more.
Yep. All right. That's going to do it. There's frankly not a lot more need to be said about this. I'm trying to remember. Ken Pomeroy said, Ken Pom's computer projects that Duke wins this game against Bucknell by 30 points, 86-56. He says is the final. And like we said, our main interest in this game is seeing if we get some enhanced play from some of these guys that we haven't seen as much from this season. So
6 p.m. 6 p.m. Friday, 6 p.m. Friday, ACC Network. So again, as I like to say, check your local listings, but ACC Network at this point should be something that you already know the channel number for. So tune in 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Channel 1612 here in Atlanta for me.
I have a various channel box that none of you guys have, so I'm not going to recite my channel because it doesn't matter.
All right, that's going to do it for here on the DBR Bites edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. I'm Jason. He's Donald. Here is the Duke Band to play us out and take us home.